El Salvador, home to some of the world's most notorious gangs. But deep within its borders lies a prison feared not only for its inmates, but for the brutal conditions inside. Welcome to Zacatecoluca prison, also known as Zacatraz, where survival is a daily fight and escape is a distant dream. El Salvador is overrun by gang violence, with MS-13 and Barrio 18 controlling entire communities. With one of the highest murder rates in the world, the government was forced to crack down hard. These gangs don't just operate on the streets, they also control the country's most feared prison. To understand why Zacatecoluca is so feared, we need to look back at the origins of El Salvador's gang problem. It began during the country's civil war in the 1980s, which led many Salvadorans to flee to the US, where they became involved in gang activity. As members were deported back to El Salvador, they brought their violent ways with them. By the 2000s, El Salvador was gripped by MS-13 and Barrio 18, two of the deadliest gangs in the world. With the murder rate skyrocketing, the government launched crackdowns, arresting thousands of gang members and locking them away in prisons like Zacatecoluca. So, what makes this prison a living hell? First, overcrowding. Zacatecoluca was designed for a certain number of inmates, but that number has exploded, leading to inhumane conditions. Cells meant for 10 often house 30, leaving little space for basic movement. But overcrowding is just the beginning. The prison is divided between rival gangs. In one part, Mississippi, 13 rules. In another, Barrio 18 reigns supreme. Guards have little authority, and the gangs run the show behind bars. Violence is common, with disputes often ending in brutal beatings. Prisoners spend 23 hours a day locked in their cells, with only an hour for exercise. Basic rights like proper food, clean water, and medical care are almost non-existent. It's a system designed to crush the human spirit. Zacatecoluca isn't just a prison, it's a place where isolation is used as a weapon. Inmates are cut off from the outside world, with no contact with family and limited legal support. There are no rehabilitation programs or education, no hope of a second chance. Inmates live under the control of gang leaders. Any act of defiance is met with swift and violent punishment, usually from fellow inmates. The Salvadoran government's approach, known as mano dura, iron fist, is all about extreme control. The goal? Break the gangs from the inside. But instead, the gangs maintain their power, and the violence continues. El Salvador's iron fist approach is both praised and condemned. Supporters argue that these tough tactics are necessary to control violence. After all, these prisoners have committed heinous crimes. But critics see the brutal conditions as counterproductive, creating a more violent prison environment. Rather than rehabilitation, inmates often leave more dangerous than when they entered, using the prison as a base to control operations on the streets. What do you think? Does El Salvador's harsh prison system help control gangs, or does it fuel more violence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This notorious prison has gained international attention. Human rights organizations have condemned the conditions at Zacatraz, citing violations of basic human rights. Reports of starvation and untreated illnesses have circulated for years, but little has changed. Despite the outcry, the Salvadoran government remains firm, viewing Zacatecoluca as a necessary evil to keep the country safe. While gang leaders control much of the activity inside, authorities insist that without such measures, El Salvador would be far worse off. For most inmates, the idea of life after Zacatecoluca seems impossible. Many die behind bars, while others leave more entrenched in gang culture. Few are truly rehabilitated. The bigger question is whether prisons like Zacatecoluca help El Salvador in its fight against gangs. With gang leaders running operations from inside, can the prison system ever end the violence gripping the country? The future is uncertain. For now, Zacatecoluca remains one of the world's most feared prisons, a place where survival is never guaranteed. Zacatecoluca stands as a brutal reminder of the extremes El Salvador is willing to go to in its war against gangs. But is it working? If you found this video insightful, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay curious, stay informed, and let's keep learning from the world around us.